The University of Johannesburg Choir performed the New Covenant at the Linder Auditorium under the direction of choirmaster Renette Bouwer. That performance, which is a large-scale poetic and choral reflection on our relationship with nature and the earth, is an important message on climate change. The piece was narrated by celebrated poet Lebo Mashile, who joins us now in studio for insights on what I think is an incredibly interesting piece of performance, by the way. Welcome to Newzroom Afrika.
Thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be talking to you for the first time.
I mean,
hey.
Long delayed,
as we say,
but let's try and behave.
Okay. Okay.
I've had the pleasure, and I really consider it the pleasure of listening to UJ Choir, because what they're able to put together, we are yet to put words to. But let's speak about where you fit into all of that in this performance.
So this piece was originally conceived of based on a text that was written by Ankie Krog, celebrated poet, author, award-winning. She just won the Hertzog Prize, which is like the biggest literary prize in Afrikaans. She's winning a huge prize at UJ in a week's time as well. She's written 13 books. The piece takes the form of a mass, a church service, but it's not overtly religious. It speaks more about the relationship that we have with nature, the sacredness of water, of trees, of the planet that keeps us alive, how this planet is connected to the universe and how we are connected to it, and how the damage that we are doing to it essentially is to ourselves, because the planet will outlive us. It will carry on playing the role that it plays in the universe. We will make ourselves extinct, So it was originally written in Afrikaans, and it was staged at Woordfeest. It was staged in Cape Town. It was staged in Pretoria, also in the Netherlands, performed by Ankie herself, who's also a formidable performer. She's great on stage. And she translated it into English. And this collaboration was done between the University of Johannesburg, the UJ Choir, under the baton of the incredible Renette Bouwer. I mean, UJ Choir is phenomenal. Yeah. Like the harmonies that they're able to produce, the precision of their ear, their discipline. There's a point where the harmonies blend so beautifully. It's like it just elevates everything. It elevates everything inside of you. It's like the heavens have opened.
Tight.
Woo!
It is, yeah, absolutely.
So we had 120 choristers from the UJ Choir on stage, Renette Bouwer directing. The musical score was originally done by Anthony Shonkin, who said to me last night that last night was the first time that he heard the music the way he conceived of it in his head.
Wow.
We had a musical ensemble including 2 grand pianos on stage, and then me narrating the English version of this incredible text. So it was, the Linder Auditorium in Parktown was originally created for orchestras. It's built for orchestras. Right. So the sound there, the acoustics, I mean, you hear everything, you hear every breath. So it's like an immersive sonic experience.
Wow.
And I mean, South Africa has a long choral tradition, and there are amazing choirs out there. But the kind of mastery that Renette possesses and what she has, the skill that she has instilled in these choristers, it just takes them to a whole nother level. She's retiring from the university this year, but she'll still be conducting. But this is her last big kind of public artistic opus as the official director of the choir at the University of Johannesburg. So, and
we will speak about her work
until
for as long as the choir itself exists.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely brilliant. And anybody who sang in a choir will tell you, you can't fake that kind of mastery. The choristers have to get along. And again, words fail me. At the very least.
I think every performer needs to rehearse at some point, needs to work with a choir. It's my first time at my big age, more than 20 years in the game, working like this with a choir, and I'm forever changed. I mean, the discipline that they have. We would sit in warm-ups, and she can hear. If somebody's out of 110 people, she will point out who is bimbering. She can her ear is so finely attuned. But, I mean, it's also interesting because she says that in order to be a good singer, you have to be a good listener.
Yep.
You know, so, and I think that that really is the give and take of performance, right? In order to be a good performer, you have to also be able to receive and internalize and work with other people, you know, and see where your voice fits in this tapestry. And that was my challenge, but also my pleasure. It's been my gift.
Speaking of that, by the way, I'm interested in the name, the New Covenant, and you've already mentioned that it's an allusion to the Mass, which itself takes on a call and response type format for anybody who's been part of the Mass. I mean, how much of that features in this work?
It does. We adhere to the format of the Mass, but the content, obviously, I mean, Anki takes it and just explodes it, you know. And it's very universal in its interpretation. I mean, she talks about kneeling before the unutterable mercy of trees. I mean, there's a whole elegy to clouds and how clouds just pile on each other. Clouds are formed from the sacred union between sun and water. No one can contain it. No one can possess it. It knows no boundaries. I mean, it's just, it's the language itself is so beautiful. So she brings the power of the mysticism and the spirituality that comes, you know, from the Mass, but transposes it onto our own sacred relationship with nature. You know, the sacredness of breath, the sacredness of trees which give us oxygen, the sacredness of the smallest like bacteria and algae that give us oxygen. Without breath we wouldn't survive. This whole thing is sustained by breath, you know. And when we destroy the rivers and the trees, and we are destroying ourselves. We're destroying our own ability to breathe. You know, I mean, if the projections are right, you know, by 2050 we're going to be seeing like massive billions of people on the planet being forced to relocate as climate refugees, right? I mean, when you spoke about climate change 20 years ago, it was like, yo, you're a hippie, you're a quack, you're earthy crunchy, you're crying about nothing, there's bigger problems, right? But now, I mean, look at Hawaii. Look at what happened in Durban. Look at the fires in Australia. I mean, we're seeing it so close to us. It's undeniable. And I think for people with children or, you know, even just forward-thinking people, you know, imagining a world where it is impossible to survive for just the next generation. I mean, how can that be our legacy?
It's under our watch,
Absolutely.
essentially, that this has happened.
Absolutely.
Who would you say this covenant is between? I mean, anybody who understands the meaning of that word agrees that it means there's a kind of agreement. So what's your interpretation of that?
I think there is a sacred covenant between us and the planet. I think there is a sacred covenant between each of us as well as human beings, as natural beings, as people who inhabit life force, you know. And she speaks about that, you know, from the grandest, you know, the sacred covenant between the sea and the sun and the clouds and the water and the waters that live in us and the air that lives in us, you know. If we treat ourselves as an elemental part of the natural environment that we are in, we have no choice but to see the divinity in ourselves. And we have no choice but then to see and honor the divinity in each other.
Sure. Wow. There's a lot to obviously extract from this. I know you performed it yesterday. I'm hoping there's an opportunity for us to see it again. What do you know about that?
I mean, the ideal would be for this to go on tour. It should. I would love to perform it at the National Arts Festival. I would even love to perform it at Joburg Theatre. With 110 choristers, with 120 people on stage, you need a venue that can accommodate all of us. But I think the big thing is also the cost of touring a choir of that size. And it has to be them because they are just immaculate, you know. So in my prayers, I'm hoping for a big titan sponsor that will just take on the expense of the choir, so that festivals and people who want to book the show can also then, you know, take on the production, you know, because the production actually is quite portable and mobile. It's the choir itself that is the big expense, but it's worth every penny. I've not heard vocals like this in my life. And this is, I mean, South Africa is the vocal capital of the world. I don't care who says what.
We've got pretty good choirs.
We sang, and I have not heard vocals like this.
Look, let me echo.
No hate to any other choirs. You know, no hate. But this standard is high.
No, look, the choir at your church may be good, but the UJ choir, again, I've also been in the room and I've heard them sing, and yeah, a few people are able to describe really what they're able to put together. Thank you for coming through.
Oh,
you and I can speak till the sunset.
I know.
So we have to wrap it up there. But if you haven't been able to perhaps catch how this all came together, we've been able to scramble together a quick snippet for you.
Thank you.
And so as you listen to this, let me once again convey my thanks to poet and author and just person extraordinaire, Lebo Mashile. Thanks for popping.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.